Welcome to the Nonno Giorgio and Rory Cooking Italian for Weight Loss channel. Today we're making stuffed yellow squash with vegetarian ground beef. The stuffed squash was delicious. As we plated it, we had a meatball and bolognese sauce. We started making a meatloaf, but added tomato sauce and cheese and turned it into bolognese. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome back to the Nonno Giorgio and Rory Cooking Italian for Weight Loss channel. Today we're going to do a fun recipe, get your veggies and some meat. It's going to be stuffed squash, but you can also do stuffed zucchini or bell peppers with the same one. And we're also going to do meatballs. And the reason we combine the two is we have a pound of vegetarian ground beef from Impossible, and we won't be using a whole pound. So we're going to do half pound for the stuffing of the squash and a half pound for the Italian meatballs. So right now we're going to do just the meat recipe, and you can do this with regular ground beef. You can do it with Beyond Meat ground beef, which is a product that's out now, or this one.
Or when I ate meat, I used to combine pork and turkey.
Yeah.
Or just use ground turkey. For whatever your inclination is regarding meats, you can do it with whatever you want.
Yeah, just modify the recipe to include what you like. All right, so this is easy. We have 4 eggs, we have 4 cloves of garlic, we have some panko breadcrumbs with a little bit of water. You don't want the water to be floating in there. You want to dump out any excess, but you want all the panko to be wet. We have a half a cup of ground grated cheese, salt and pepper to taste. And basically we're going to put all of these
ingredients
together
into one bowl.
So we put the 4 eggs. Rory's using that fantastic herb scissors
My favorite little tool.
to get it partially chopped.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use my hands, because cooking with your hands brings back your childhood. It's just fun.
Yeah.
That was the panko. That's the cheese. Now we'll do the garlic.
You can also, I don't know if we told them this, you can also, instead of panko, use regular breadcrumbs, which, it's basically the same recipe for meatloaf, for meatballs, etc. And so you can use regular breadcrumbs if you want to. But we like the panko better.
And salt and pepper. So we mix all of our ingredients, get those squishy eggs going. Oh, this is fun. You want to make sure that the mixture is well mixed.
Right. You won't believe how this Impossible meat and the Beyond Meat looks exactly like ground beef. They really have done a wonderful job on these. I guess it doesn't really matter, but we're so visual about eating, Sometimes you don't want to eat something just because it doesn't look right. But this looks completely like, like ground beef. I had a real aversion to fake meats a long time ago, but they're so good now, and they've... look how this looks. Doesn't that look exactly like ground beef? They've done such a good job of making these taste right and making them look right, and they're not bad for you. So, there's not much to lose here.
So if they're a little soft, you can put some more in, or just use 3 eggs instead of 4.
Yeah.
And you want, I don't like teeny meatballs, and I don't like jumbo ones. So we're making like a medium meatball. And these are delicious when you take them out after they've fried, just having it that way.
Yeah.
Or put them in your favorite tomato sauce and have them that way.
Or a lot of people's favorite is meatball sandwiches, meatball.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I used to love that. You take these and you can crush them with a fork on a nice crusty bread, like the bread recipe we have, and you've got it.
You are making me hungry. Stop it. Stop it. Here is Giorgio, and he is putting our beautiful meatballs into a combination of olive oil and vegetable oil. Again, because the olive oil, when it gets too hot, it's not good for you. So we combine it with a little corn oil. These look absolutely beautiful. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll be back to flip them. Okay. So we're flipping our meatballs. And these are a little bit, I would use the 3 eggs instead of the 4. But they're smelling good. And I probably have them a little bit too crowded in this pan.
So this meat, you know, working with it, you'll get more familiar with, you know, how it works, how wet it is. And you can always modify your recipes, you know, add a little more panko or breadcrumbs or a little less. And
but they're looking good, they're smelling good, and I'm sure they're going to taste good.
Yep.
And we'll be back when we're going to plate these on a plate with paper towel so that the oil has a place to drip. And then we're going to take our squash, cut it out so it's little squash boats, and mix the squash and some other things with the remaining meat and get that all put together. Rory is cooking the onions, and as soon as they get soft, we're going to put the remaining half of the meat in. And here, the first half we turned into meatballs that look absolutely delicious. In fact, we tasted some crumbs and they're good.
So a couple of things about onions is that you don't want to fry them too fast because they get bitter. So you want the onions to be somewhat, you know, the oil to be somewhat not too hot when you first put them in. And you'll notice that we have little bits of meat in here from the meatballs. What we did was we just used the same pan, and we are doing our stuffing for the yellow squash in the same pan. So it has all these wonderful little bits of meat and oil from before. So we're saving oil and it's more tasty.
So we have a correction. The recipe below the video on YouTube is correct. I would use 3 eggs instead of 4 and a cup of panko wet instead of 2/3. Our meatballs were a little on the moist side, so instead of staying as a meatball, they kind of flattened a little bit.
Yeah.
But they still taste the same, and they're good.
They taste really good. So here's our Impossible burger meat cooking. I'm not going to cook it all the way because we're going to roast the filling, this filling, in the yellow squash for 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm only giving this a little cooking and a little sauteing, And as soon as the meat starts looking fairly brown, I will mix it in with the insides of the squashes, and we'll have our filling.
We've taken the meat and onions out of the saute pan and put them in this bowl. And now Rory is taking 2 of our squash and cutting them lengthwise. And she cut the 2 ends off.
Right.
So that we can eat the whole thing.
You don't want these funny ends.
But when we hollow it out, we want to make sure you don't go all the way to the edge, because then the filling will drip out that way.
Right.
You want to make little boats.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So we're going to get this out and chop it up. And we're making this like a little canoe. And we're leaving a little bit at the end, at each end, so that the filling won't come out. And now we're going to do this one.
Four halves have been hollowed out, and now Rory is chopping or dicing up the insides of the squash, because that's going to get mixed in with our meat mixture here, and then a bunch of seasoning. Now, you might say, how come we didn't put some garlic or a little bit of panko in there? Because they're in the meat. Remember, we made this from the meatball recipe below, and it's got garlic in it, and it's got some panko.
So we're just adding a few more things in order to make the filling for the squashes. Okay, I think that's diced enough. And you can see the meat is partially cooked. The onions were soft. And now we mix it all up together.
So now we put in our tomato sauce.
That's 1 cup of tomato sauce. Okay. And
Third, yeah.
And then we put in our parsley. 2 tablespoons of oregano. It's usually better not to measure things on top of your dish, because if you put in too much, then you're kind of stuck. But with some things, you don't have to worry. And this is our basil. So there are herbs and spices here. I'm going to put a little salt and pepper, but not much, because we've already seasoned the meat. So, you know, it might be enough seasoning, and we'll just taste it when it's close to done.
And the only thing left is the mozzarella cheese, which is going to go on top of them after they've cooked for 20 minutes. And then we'll brown the cheese, and they'll be wonderful.
Yep. You know, you don't always have to put this cheese on top of everything, but it gives it such a pretty color, and it's not a whole lot of calories, and it just gives dishes a little finishing touch. Doesn't that look wonderful?
Looks great.
Okay.
And now?
So now we're going to stuff the squashes. I think I'll leave it down here.
And if you have any of this left over, which I think we will, you can use it for other things.
Yeah. We always have leftover ingredients, leftover things in the fridge. But, you know, you get more creative, too. You think, well, I've got this left. I think they call that quarantine cooking now. Do you, George?
Yes. And this leftover, you know what you could do is make a small meatloaf. Oh boy, would that be delicious.
That would be. So here we go. Our boats turned out well. And as we said in the beginning, you can do peppers, you can do zucchini squash, with the stuffing, you know, whatever you like better. We just hadn't had a yellow squash for a while, and they were on sale. So that's why we picked these.
We decided that the suggestion to make a meatloaf was a good one. So we took the leftovers, put it in a little bread pan, and we got meatloaf. And our 4 stuffed half squashes are going to go in a glass baking dish. We put just a little bit of water in the bottom so they don't burn or stick to the bottom.
And it gives
Look how they fit.
Gives it a little vapor so that they steam a little when they're in the oven.
And our oven is at 350. It rang, so we're at temperature.
Okay.
And Rory's going to put that in on the middle shelf.
That one should be up a little bit, I think.
Okay, close the door. We've taken them out after 20 minutes.
Yep.
And Rory's she's checking them. They need a little bit more to go. But we're going to put the mozzarella cheese. We took the remaining meatballs and put them in our tomato sauce. So they're getting the flavor of tomatoes. And later this week, and we may film it, we're going to do a squash and pasta with meatballs. And here's our meatloaf. It looks wonderful. We're going to put a little tomato sauce and cheese on that and put it back in the oven.
So we've basically made 3 or 4 meals out of a set of ingredients, and we can mix them up, we can eat them together, we can eat them later in the week with something else. So it's nice to make things ahead and to have things that are almost ready to eat, I think. So here we go. We've got our little meatloaf made from extras. And these are almost done. So I think now when we put them back in to melt the cheese, another 5 or so minutes, they should be good to go. There we go.
Okay, so we'll do 5 minutes and then check back. We're all done. Our meatloaf, or bolognese sauce is really what it's like because we crumbled it all up. And our stuffed squash and meatball are plated, and we're going to give a taste.
So I'm disappointed because we almost always have the colors of the Italian flag on our dishes, but this time we have mostly earth colors. But it's a good thing.
The meatloaf slash bolognese sauce, because we put some tomato sauce with it and chopped it up, is delicious. That'll go great over a pasta.
Wow. This is so good. Oh my goodness.
The meatball,
It's really toasty on the outside and crispy. This tastes so wonderful. You have to try it.
oh, the squash.
Here is to quarantine cooking.
Nothing better than homemade food.
We are having a wonderful time and we want to share it with you. And not only that, but we are losing weight still. So you can, as Nonno says, have delicious food and lose or maintain weight.
Chin chin. Don't forget to like this video if you like it or you're going to make it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That really helps us on YouTube. And ring that bell so you get notified by YouTube when new recipes come out.
Bye and thanks for watching.
Ciao. Arrivederci. We hope you have enjoyed our channel. If you have, please hit the subscribe button below and the bell next to it so you get notified of new videos when they come out.